Welcome to the Association 4.0 podcast, your association's no-fluff playbook to navigating and thriving in Industry 4.0 or the digital marketplace. Each week, we bring expert insights to help you and your association stay ahead of the curve.
Hello, and welcome to the Association 4.0 podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Budziak, co-founder of .org Community and founder and CEO of .org Source. As you know, I am passionate about helping associations navigate this fast-paced digital landscape and empowering leaders to embrace innovation, inspire their teams, and create lasting impact. So I am thrilled today to welcome Liz Peuster, CAE, the Chief Communications Officer at the South Carolina Association of CPAs. With over 20 years of experience in communications, membership, and technology integration, Liz has achieved remarkable success in growing membership, enhancing member value, and driving innovation through technology. Her passion for storytelling, strategic leadership, and AI-driven solutions is transforming the association landscape. So I'm so excited to have you here, Liz. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, Sherry, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
You know, we just recently met, which I'm so excited, and I know a little bit about your journey, but talk to our audience about kind of where your journey in association world got started and what drew you to a career in communications and technology.
Yeah. So, even from when I was really young, I loved storytelling. I loved to talk. I loved to build relationships with people. And really, when I got into college, I thought I'm going to be a journalist. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell people stories. As time went on, I realized that that wasn't really the right fit for me. And maybe I wanted something more relationship focused. And so I started thinking maybe like public relations was the right way to go. Once I got out of school, I thought, I need a job. I have to start like paying for these dreams. And I found in a newspaper a little classified ad in the wanted section for a membership and communications coordinator for the Missouri Society of CPAs. And I did not know what any of that meant, but I knew the word marketing. So I thought, let's go interview for that job. And I was so lucky to get it and work with that team for almost 10 years and really learn about what associations are and what they do and who they serve. It was a profession I knew nothing about. Association professionals, I mean, and even CPAs. Yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't really realize they did all these really cool things. And I fell in love with helping people be successful. And I just dug in there and I thought, this is really great. And that opened up doors for me to experiment in other professions and other industries. So I've worked for a handful of organizations now. SCAPA is my fourth organization that I've been blessed to work with. And every day is a little bit different. And I just love what we do as association professionals. We just have the best time and we just get to help people be successful. I just think that's the best. That's the best job in the world.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Over the years, you've worked with several prominent associations. So kind of how have those experiences shaped your approach to leadership and innovation?
We are having the best time as association leaders when we're making a difference, right? So I've never been one to maintain the status quo. That's not how I function. I like to try new things and break eggs and make omelets and do the whole thing. So if we are able to move the professions that we serve forward and also our own profession as association people, then that's how you get excited about what you do every day. That's what energizes me to go to work. So it's not always just looking to fix what's broken, because oftentimes in our organizations, things aren't as broken as we think they are. But what can we do just that 1% better? Like James Clear talks a lot about that, right? Just that 1% to make someone's life just that much easier. And that's where I get my motivations from. And oftentimes it's not that hard to do. Sometimes I think people think innovation is really hard, but it's not. It's just finding those little ways to improve something that's already really great. And we move forward. And that's been really, I've benefited from that as a person. It's been fun to watch the associations I've worked for experience that growth and those successes as well.
And I love that you like breaking eggs and making omelets. I love that. I've never heard someone love it.
I'm a little hungry.
So growing and retaining membership is, as we know, is top priority for associations, right? So I guess what strategies have been the most effective in your work at California CPA? Or I'm sorry, I just said California CPA. I meant South Carolina CPA.
That's okay. They're just on the other side of the country. It's fine. It's fine.
No.
No, recruitment and retention. So it's all about keeping up with what's going on with these associations, right? With these members. So what used to work for getting people to engage in associations doesn't work now. So for me, it's finding what the secret sauce is and being willing to adapt to new and inventive ways of coming up with what that secret sauce is. For CPAs, it used to be all about education. They need their CPE credits, in order to renew their licenses every year. And for a long time, CPA associations were the provider of that education. And that was great. It was a really fantastic business model. But we can call it in a post-COVID world, but I think it was just as technology advanced, a lot of that learning was starting to happen online and become more commoditized. And CPA associations can't keep up with free. We can't beat free, which is what a lot of these online providers are able to offer. So what else do we have as associations that we can offer that benefit members? And I'm talking about CPAs a lot because that's who I work with now, but this is any industry, right? You can go on YouTube and find anything to educate yourself. So how do we as association professionals continue to deliver that value when we live in such a knowledge-driven culture? What I'm finding over and over is it's in community. We are bringing heart into our professions. And when we bring people together, there's an energy and an electricity there that just can't be beat. Whether it's two people who have known each other for a really long time, or my goodness, you introduce students and, the future leaders of that profession into that environment, people get really excited about what they do. And then they remember that they got that excitement from us, from their associations. And that's what keeps them coming back year over year over year, is that connection. So in taking that back to recruitment and retention, if we can remind them of that experience and share those experiences and tell those stories, that's what gets people excited about getting involved and staying involved. So that's where we're trying to go with SCAPA right now, is when we're bringing new folks into the fold, is to tell those stories about engagement and connection and community. And it seems to be working because we're growing, which a lot of associations can't say.
Right. Can you kind of share some examples of kind of how you're inspiring our member stories and how that's helped you strengthen the organization with community engagement?
Sure. So one thing that we do that we're really proud of is our student program is really fantastic at SCAPA. We put a lot of energy into it, and we bring our students in to we have a big fall conference every year, kind of an annual meeting type of thing. This year, we were so excited. We had more than 500 CPAs in one place, and really there's no party like a CPA party. They have a good time when they're together. It's a lot of fun. And then you introduce these students into it and you start to see these connections grow because we'll sit them all together, right? So we'll have all of the USC students sit with people who we know went to USC. We'll have the Clemson students sit with people who went to Clemson. And you start to see that electricity happen between those folks. And then they start to build those relationships over time. And oftentimes that can result in job opportunities for those students, or enhanced connections or rekindled relationships between families that maybe have lost touch. Because in South Carolina, everybody knows everybody. It's a small town in a big state. Everybody knows everybody. And so you see those relationships start to develop. And then to watch those students grow, that's a really fun story to tell. And then that gets people energized about getting involved with the Education Foundation and growing the accounting profession and coming to those events, because then they're like, I might find my next best hire here. It's really exciting.
That's really cool. And what a great idea to put people at tables. So they already have a little bit of a connection,
right?
That makes it easier to connect and build those relationships. So that's great. I want to switch the conversation a little bit and talk about technology. So I know this is something that you and I are passionate about. So technology integration has been really the cornerstone of your work. So what recent advancements have you implemented to enhance member experiences?
The first thing I want to say is I am not a technology person. I am a communicator. I'm a marketer. I'm a people person. If you sit me down and tell me to write a line of Python code, I'm going to stare at you with saucer eyes. This is not what I am trained to do. But man, AI has made that really easy for us non-technical people to dabble in this technology. Forever, I've been kind of the person on staff that gets to know how the AMS works really, really well and figure out all of those little intricacies and then go to my peers and say, hey, did you know you can run this report or you can track this kind of data information so that we can deliver more targeted products and services? Then like AI comes about, right? And then we start saying like, oh, we can do all kinds of stuff with this. And the first thing that we did with it was really to start finding really cool efficiencies that were taking too much time from a staff perspective. If we could reduce that time, then what could we do to provide a better member experience? Because at the end of the day, at SCAPA, we sell an experience. That's what we all try to do as association professionals. So starting with the member experience, the first thing I did to cut back on the amount of time that I was spending on the boring stuff, let's just call it the boring stuff, are renewal letters. Yeah. Anyone who's listening to this podcast that has been in association management for any amount of time knows how grueling it is to write those renewal letters, especially when you've done it for 20 plus years. It's the same thing over and over, but you always have to do the fresh take and you've got to make it sound fun and exciting. So the first thing I did with ChatGPT was to say, freshen up my renewal letters for me because I don't have time to do it. I don't have any interest in doing it. And all of a sudden, my entire renewal campaign, which has, 10 touches to it, was done. I was done with it. And I was like, well, now what am I going to do? Oh, I can start figuring out different ways to deliver value. I can start figuring out how to tell better stories and make different connections. So by just implementing AI in very simple ways, our team has been able to take the time saved and compound that into ways that we can get more personal with our members and develop relationships with them and help them develop relationships with each other. Because again, it's all about community. It's all about that experience. So if we're able to get rid of the boring stuff, the clerical stuff, the stuff that takes up too much of our time, man, we've gotten some time back that we've been able to really build some interesting programs and services and deliver on those.
So how do you see AI kind of reshaping communications and operations and member value over the next few years?
In every way. I don't think that there's any area of the business that's going to remain untouched by this technology. I think, especially as we're starting to see it get more integrated into the platforms that we're already using, meaning I think we're going to start seeing more of this built into our AMS packages and built into whatever email software you're using to send out stuff. The software that we use has already introduced an AI component that is not a ChatGPT and it's not a Gemini, but it's just inherent, like it's baked into the program. From an operations standpoint, there's so many things we can do. Certainly the financial standpoint, running, automatically running certain reports every time that take up pieces. I think everything is going to get touched by this. And it's scary, but I think it's also really exciting because so often we say like, oh, if I only had all of the time in the world. Well, now we kind of do. Yeah. And I think we also as associations have a really important responsibility to familiarize ourselves with these tools and what they mean and get the word out to our members because they need to know, because every area of their business is going to be touched and impacted by this. And I think that to be the leaders of our professions, which so many of us are, I think we just have to get in front of it. Every single association person wants to protect and promote their profession, whether you're representing the wood flooring industry or the CPA profession. Everybody has that same drive. And I hope they're looking to us to get them through this technology revolution. And if they're not, they should be. Yeah. And so I think as AI as itself and as a subject matter, and then just in the way that it is going to change how we work, it's also very important.
We had a conversation yesterday with an organization. They want us to come in and talk to their senior team because nobody wants to talk about AI. And we're like, well, you see that it's going to be integrated into everything that we're doing. So really understanding what those opportunities are and, having those discussions. You and I could probably talk about that for the next hour, but
Forever.
we
I
won't
know.
from our audience. So it's definitely interesting times, and I think it will transform the way that we do business, obviously, but it's exciting because as you talked about, like there's opportunity now. What are we about? It's about creating community and making those connections, and how can be able to focus more on that and less on dues renewals or those mundane tasks that take up a lot of time at an organization, right?
100%.
So how do you balance the need for technological innovation with maintaining that human connection that associations are known for?
Gosh, that's such a great question. So, I mean, it's something that we need, but it's so easy to get mired down in the nuts and bolts of it. And I think that it's very scary for some people who are in this profession, or really any profession, that they are afraid of job loss and job elimination. And the thing is, we can have both the technological innovation piece and that human connection. And the reason for that is because these models, as wonderful as they are, they can't feel, they have no intuition, they can reason a little bit, but it's still super flawed. And that's where we come in. So it turns into, if we can figure out where that heart really lives, and we know where it is, and it's what our people, our staff, our association teams are the heart of our organizations. And if we can let them showcase that heart and that empathy and that gut feeling, and let the machines do the rest of it, then I think that's super powerful. And that's where the relevance of associations continues to be, because we're still people helping people. We're not people that are pushing pencils and paper all day. So we have to take the time to at least get off the hamster wheel long enough of our processes that we're running every day and say, can we automate this? Can we let the machines handle this piece of what we're doing? Because while it is important to the business, it's not delivering heart and value. And let's focus on the heart and value a little bit. And you talk a lot about leading by heart, Sherry. And I think that that's so important. And at the end of the day, we're just people, and people like to help people. When we're able to do that, that's where the balance is, because we're freed up to do that, because we're not dealing with the mundane and the boring. So there's definitely a balance there. So use this AI or any tech as a tool to augment what you want to do.
It gives you the opportunity to really take the time to think about, okay, now how can we make the connections, right? Like the ability to, if you take 5 hours a week off of your plate or whatever, like what can we do with that? Like how can we even be creating, so much better value, or be able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, instead of sending an email, whatever the case might be, just to make those human connections, I think is an opportunity if we can think about it that way. So what advice would you give leaders, association leaders who are just beginning to explore the use of technology to modernize their operations?
Do it. Get curious about it. Just dive in. And here's the thing, and this is what I love about particularly AI. We're just going to focus on AI. We're not going to talk about the capital stuff. We're not going to talk about doing a $50,000 website or a $100,000 AMS. Let's talk about the AI tools. They are so scalable for any size organization. If you have 100 staff or if you have 5, it's scalable for all, both economically and as far as like a lift goes. So just try something small to get going. If you're listening and you've not even started on this yet, just think of something small. I mentioned the renewal letter piece. If that's something that is sitting on your plate, just test drive it. You can't break AI. I think a lot of times we're afraid to get involved with technology because we're afraid we'll break it or it will break us. Neither of those things are going to happen. So get just curious and just try one thing, and then try something else next week and something else the week after that. Try to carve out maybe just a half an hour on Friday afternoon when you're trying to figure out how to, scoot out before the boss notices you a little early. Just be like, I'm just going to sit here and play with AI for a couple minutes and see what I can learn. There are so many resources out there and it can be very overwhelming, but if you just start with something small and maybe even silly. I was showing somebody yesterday how to work with the Canvas feature in ChatGPT, which is a really fun feature to play with because it allows you to do edits inline as opposed to just prompting and reprompting over and over again with content. And I highlighted the headline of whatever article we were talking about. And I said, rephrase this headline in the style of Porky Pig from the Looney Tunes. And it gave me just like this endless line of like, and if you grew up on Looney Tunes on Saturday morning, like I did, you understand that Porky Pig has a little bit of a stutter. And it was funny because it kind of did that for me and it made me laugh really hard. But then I thought, well, what else can I do if I was able to get ChatGPT to rephrase that one little line? What else can it do? Where's the rest of the potential here? So start small, be curious, get silly, and don't take it so seriously. I think also sometimes we think we have to be so serious. We have to have the whole plan laid out. No, you don't. Just play.
Right.
Just have some fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, then what are we doing?
I told you before we got about a presentation that I did, and I started out with talking about the Jetsons. But then I decided that I wanted to integrate the Flintstones. Like, are you the Jetsons or are you the Flintstones? And yeah, I could have sat there for 2 days coming up with all these ideas, but I took every piece of my presentation and I put it through Claude. And I'm a big ChatGPT gal, but I put it through Claude and I was like, okay, give me, how would you rewrite this about, on the Jetsons side or the Flintstones side, whatever. And it gave me all these different ideas and it made it much more fun. And it was much more creative than I am. The little ones that gave me the ideas, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Or, oh, yeah, I forgot about that about the Jetsons or whatever. So, yeah, it could be something as simple as that. Or I was on a call the other day and someone said, oh, my CEO got excited because he was able to write a job description with ChatGPT. It's the first time he ever used it. And it got him to 80%. I'm like, exactly. Just try it. In our industry, people are worried about IP and all those things. And that's a different discussion. But there are things that are just, as you kind of said, what I kind of low-hanging fruit, let's just say, of increasing some productivity by just getting started.
I agree. Well, and then it gets your juices flowing too, because then you start to go like, well, what if it could do this? Well, what if? It's low risk enough that you can definitely tool around with it and figure something out. And then, you talk about saving just those little bits of time. Like you said, save 5 hours over the course of a month. Well, that's 60 hours a year. That's a week and a half. What can you do? That's a
vacation.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I like that idea.
There's a vacation. What trends or challenges do you think that we're going to have as associations over the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, staying relevant is always going to be a challenge, right? And I think that that's why this creativity and innovation is so important. Because if you would have asked me the same question 3 to 5 years ago, I would have said, well, we need to figure out what we're going to do about educating our members because there are other avenues for that now. And so we've gotten through that. I think associations are on their way to figuring that out. I think with AI, there's a few things that we're going to need to watch because, again, it's going to hit every aspect of business. I think one of those things that we're really going to have to watch is how it impacts search. I think the days of typing in what you want on Google and getting a list of links, I think those days are pretty limited. And even if you go to Google now and you ask it a question, first you're getting an AI generated response before you get your list of links. Sometimes they're right. And sometimes those responses leave a little bit to be desired. But I think as that continues to impact search, consumers, which are also our members, are going to just start defaulting to asking ChatGPT for questions. If you're working with an association that thrives on having people call you and come to you as the source of all things, that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a real challenge. And also a lot of associations like to position themselves as the authority in their practice area. And that's great. ChatGPT is now the authority in that. So how do we as associations combat that and make sure that the information that the searches are returning is accurate and true? That's a tough question to surmount. And I know there's one association that not mine, but was asking ChatGPT questions about their profession. If the answer came back incorrect, they had a team of people that just sat there and literally tried to retrain ChatGPT on how to answer those questions correctly. And they were successful in that, but it was a lift. And not all associations have those resources available. So figuring out how we're going to balance our value with search, especially if you're a content-driven or knowledge-driven organization, is going to be something to watch. And I also think that something a little less scary, maybe, is when we start talking about just what our jobs look like in associations. Everybody has their membership department, their marketing department, finance, education. Maybe you have a governmental affairs department. There's going to be some blurring of lines there and what that looks like, because AI won't just live in the technology silo. It is going to, again, hit every area of the business, and lines are going to get blurred. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's really exciting because we'll be able to upskill our teams to fulfilling mission and delivering member value. It'll be an interesting 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it sure will. One thing I think associations are struggling with right now is just upskilling staff, right? Taking the time to be able to learn all the new things. But this morning I was listening to a webinar on using SEO and using AI tools, etc. But how they ended, which I hadn't thought about this, and maybe you already have, Liz, but they said you might end up having to have 2 separate websites. One that a person would go to, and one that an agent would go to get information.
Dang.
Yeah, so I'm going to dig in that one a little bit deeper, because they said, soon we'll have agents, right, that can say, okay, go out and do X, Y, or Z for me. And they're not going to be able to do those tasks on the websites that we've created today. So anyway, the world is definitely changing, and it's changing fast. I mean, it's hard for me to keep up with, and I'm spending hours every day trying to see what the next thing is going to be. I told somebody earlier today, I'm like, yeah, I think I need to learn about balance in 2025, because I get into all this AI, going down these AI rabbit holes. But anyway, that's a whole
word of the
conversation. Yeah. So now before we wrap up today, I'm going to ask you, here's the question, maybe a more difficult question, but if you were to introduce one kind of game-changing initiative in 2025, what would that be and why?
Dang, that's a really good question. One game-changing initiative. This is what I think would be game-changing. My peers listening may have a different idea, but this is what I think would be really cool. I would love to set up an initiative with our team that we make phone contact with every member on our roster that is not about renewing their memberships, just a, hey, how are you? At least one touch over the course of the year. So at Scapa, we have 4,000 members. I would love to just get each one of them a care call, just to say, hey, how's it going? How's business? Is there any way that we can assist you? And just hear their stories and talk to them about what's going on in their corner of the world, and have it not be a transactional conversation. That is something that I have dreamed about since I got into this business, is how cool would it be to just call every member by name and hear what their story of the day is, and what impact would that have on how we build programs, products, and services. Is what we think is important really as important as we think it is, or are we missing the mark? I don't know. I like to think that we're making very informed decisions, but until you have those conversations, I don't know how you really know. So
that'd be some great market research.
I know.
Like you're
it would just be so
and
great.
You're like, so you're making that connection, but you're getting some real valuable information. Like what's top of mind for you today? Like today. Now.
Yeah. What is the ripple effect of that? Because if you've been to any live event, and you've talked to somebody once, they come up to you and they're like, oh yeah, we talked about da-da-da. Did we? Okay, cool. Like, I'm glad that you remember that. But if we can just have that moment with them, gosh, that would be so cool. That would just be so cool.
Implementing technology, might find those 5-10 hours a month where you could do
just
that
to make those calls. Right? That would be mine.
That'd be a great goal. That'd be a great goal. So Liz, if somebody wants to connect with you, learn more about the work that you're doing, or just follow you online somewhere, where can they connect with you?
Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Just search me out. I think I'm the only Liz Peuster on there. I post about what's going on in our association, our profession, but I also post an awful lot about what's going on with AI, and I love to engage in conversations there. So let's keep it going. I want to hear what other folks are doing. Let's share some ideas and best practices, and just really make a difference in our members' lives.
Awesome. I'd love for us to do this again in a few months and see where things are.
Yes, please.
It'd be really fun.
Oh, this has been so great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights and your experience. I love your passion for innovation, and you may not say that you're a technology person, but you're definitely a technology enthusiast, and what you're doing is really inspiring. And I know that our listeners will find that your ideas were invaluable. So I appreciate it. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the Association 4.0 podcast and share it with your colleagues. So together we can shape a bright future for the association community. And until next time, stay innovative and keep driving change. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and discovered tips and information that will add value to your leadership style and your association. .org Source specializes in positioning teams for success with solutions for technology, strategy, and marketing. Please contact us at info@orgsource.com or visit www.orgsource.com to find out how to keep your organization on track to Association 4.0.